What's going on, you guys? EP09 back here with another video, and I realized something about this year's Olympia that was actually pointed out to me by a friend when we were discussing the results. We actually had an Olympia competition in 2022 with not one controversial decision. Not one. Actually, I will say there was nothing that rocked the bodybuilding world at its core anyway. Keon Pearson placing 6th, many thought that he should have placed higher, and Iain Valliere placing 11th. Some actually think Iain should have placed below 11th place. Anyway, I'll have more to say about Iain later in this video. Other than Keon and Iain though, the judging seemed pretty fair this year, if I can go as far to say that. Although I wouldn't be surprised if a judge or two was starting to get a bit tired by the time midnight rolled around and the men's open lineup was still on the stage. Man, that was a late one. I did hear the Olympia will be in Florida though in 2023 again, so that should solve part of the time zone issue. Oh, you didn't hear about that yet? I'll make another video on that later. But yeah, there's always the conversation about controversial judging decisions in professional bodybuilding. But I think this competition had some of the least number of controversial decisions this year when it comes to the placings of each athlete. Hadi deserved to win, Derek deserved 2nd, Nick deserved 3rd. You get the idea. But it's true. I mean, even Hunter Labrada deserved his placing. But you know what? So did Big Ramy. Big Ramy did have the 5th best physique on that stage that night. Some say that even 5th was a gift. I don't think that's necessarily true though, especially if you consider some of the other controversial wins that some Mr. Olympia winners were handed back years ago. But I'll talk about some of those situations shortly in this video. And what word goes hand in hand with controversial placings in bodybuilding? Politics. The statement usually goes something like, well, this person only won because they have some sort of influence on the IFBB, or that the bodybuilding economy would seemingly crash, as it were, if this defending Mr. Olympia champion loses, or if the other competitor wins for that matter. And who better to hear from on the politics of bodybuilding than Bob Cicciarillo, the athlete's rep of the IFBB. Bob is a controversial figure himself as the athlete's rep, as I'm sure any of you who follow professional bodybuilding remember Bob and Fouad going back and forth about the role of the athlete's rep and how Fouad didn't think Bob was doing anything for the athletes. Let's hear what Bob has to say about the politics in bodybuilding. Bob filmed this a few months ago.
The most ludicrous thing I've heard of late is that social media comes into it. Well, the other guy had a bigger following than I do. Seriously? A bigger following. So you think these judges randomly know who's got followings on Instagram or TikTok or any of these things? Or, I mean, come on. Like, you can't literally think that this comes into play. There's no scale on the stage. Weight doesn't come into play. There's no bench press on the stage. I've been saying that for years, right? And there's no social media on the stage. No mistakes about it, folks. There's no politics involved. There's so little of that's going on. Yes, years ago there was some, crazy stuff, and there was some politics, I believe, in the old days. We're talking 40 years ago type of stuff, okay? Not current day. At some point, somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. But it doesn't automatically mean that there was politics involved. Maybe it could mean, just maybe, that the other guy was better. How about that?
Bob has been considered being someone very close to the organization, the IFBB, and potentially holds biased opinions himself. Some think he may have the best interest of the IFBB and their top dogs at the forefront, rather than the athletes that he is representing. Anyway, what about some examples of controversial placings within the IFBB in the past? When Mr. Olympia competitors from yesteryear were given a gift, what about then? Let's talk about the controversial decisions and why they may have happened. Was it politics? Was it money? Was it both? Let's look at Dorian Yates versus Nasser El-Sanbati in 1997. This one is well known amongst hardcore bodybuilding fans. Nasser was considered to have the superior physique against Dorian Yates that year, who suffered from a torn tricep on stage that threw off his symmetry, but went on to win anyway. It was a controversial decision, no question. Nasser had the superior overall physique, as well as being more conditioned and separated overall. What about Victor Martinez versus Jay Cutler in 2007? Another situation where the reigning defending Olympia champion was considered to be given a gift for their victory. Jay Cutler was just off that year, and Victor clearly had the most streamlined, separated, conditioned physique, especially through the midsection. Back then, guys got away with not having the best midsection all the time. It was all about the mass and the conditioning, and not necessarily the most aesthetic physique. I really think Jay wouldn't have been given a victory in 2007 if the show was judged like it was in 2022. So that's just to name a couple of notable controversial decisions. The question is, how could they possibly hand Jay a title showing up as off as he was, or Dorian with a torn bicep and not near the physique that Nasser showed up with? The answer is, or could be, money, politics. Think about it. The IFBB is a business. It's not so unreasonable to think that politics could play a part in at least a portion of past bodybuilding competitions. It could happen in anything, I'm just saying. The influence could be a possibility, and many believe it's a certainty these days. But Big Ramy seemed to be getting better for business for the IFBB. He's become more and more active on social media in the past couple of years. People love his personality, and he's the biggest guy on stage every year, hands down. But I think after years of controversial decisions in a subjective sport to begin with, if Ramy was given the win this year, the bodybuilding scene would have exploded like we've never seen before. The fans, I think, would have revolted. So thankfully, each athlete deserved the placing they received based solely on how they showed up on stage that day. I think that Ramy's statement he made after his defeat was gracious, but I think it was an emotional reaction. If you look at it though, it's nothing compared to the emotional reaction we all witnessed from Phil Heath when he lost to Sean Roden in 2018. I only talk about Phil because he was the first Mr. Olympia that had to pioneer navigating the world of the ever-changing social media environment being available to the entire globe for the first time. And that social media influence has shaped how competitors not only get their money in bodybuilding these days, but it may very well have affected the placings of some competitors in the past. Take Phil for instance. Phil was not the kind of guy that did a ton of interviews or public appearances from what I understand during his reign as Mr. Olympia. And you certainly would not see Phil accept an interview conducted by Dave Palumbo. But shortly after his loss, when Phil lost to Sean in 2018,
7-time Mr. Olympia, Phil Heath.
What's up?
Hey, we finally get you here.
Yeah. Everybody's probably like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, exactly.
Now why is this especially surprising? Because Phil turned down an interview request from Dave just weeks before that interview, leading up to the Olympia. The questions that Dave wanted to ask apparently before the Olympia were not questions that Phil wanted to answer, but after the Olympia, I just think Phil was vulnerable.
Remember, I'm the guy who easily has you winning last year.
You see the that I had from the top to the waist down? No one had that grainy shit. Hey, Dave, we're having fun right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It was grainy as it was like the hamstrings, the lower back, like all that.
No one touches you from behind.
Huh?
No one touches you from behind.
Look, Dave, like I said, man, like this is something that I can literally make a great argument for all day. It's just what they preferred on that day. And I'm not even going to sit here and say that they're wrong. Yeah. I'm just saying that I have a valid argument with this, that it did not make him win by 4 points in the night show when I came back even better.
So yeah, taking that interview from Dave was an emotional reaction. Phil was upset. Phil didn't know how to lose. For the first time in his career, Phil wasn't the center of attention, whether that attention was good or bad, which, you're bound to have some negative attention with a nickname like the Dream Killer. I'm sure after the loss, Phil didn't have the attention surrounding him like he used to. And so, Phil went to RX Muscle and spilled his emotional guts to Dave Palumbo. By the way, Dave, it was a great interview. I think Ramy had a similar emotional reaction when he released his clip. Nerves can get to you. I mean, look at Iain Valliere when he went to compete in Florida at the Tampa Pro in 2020, when he took second place to Hunter Labrada.
Video game stuff, and I was like, I'll keep it. But at this point, I had so much anxiety built up, I couldn't even sit still and focused on anything.
Why is that? Why do you have so much anxiety relating to bodybuilding and competing? Do you enjoy it?
I don't know. I mean, this is something I struggle with in my life outside of bodybuilding as well. But I mean, definitely, especially in bodybuilding, as I've progressed in my career,
right?
And I feel more pressure, and not even just from fans and stuff like that, but also, myself. I mean, it's, when you've been doing this for so long, the hardest thing was not even, I'd be lying to say I'm disappointed with second place. I mean, obviously I would have liked to win the show and solidify that Olympia berth, but I mean, the placing is so secondary to what the look was there,
Nerves can get to you before the show. Every bodybuilder on every level, before a show, after a show, it's an emotional roller coaster when your job is solely to be critiqued on your physical appearance. Some guys can handle that. Hey, some guys thrive on that, but not everyone.
how you feel today.
If you mean how I feel about the show, after the show, yeah, I'm feeling, I'm really need to have a great plan to be back again to the show. That's what in my head all the time right now. I need to make a great plan for next year to get my title again.
Okay, that's a good answer, because many people ask me, what is with next year? He comes back. What is his plan? What he want to do and stuff. So that was a good answer.
I'm broken many times in my life. It's not the first time, but always I back stronger than ever. And I have many years. At 2018, I lost from number 2 to number 6, and I back to take my title again. And I promise you guys, I will do my best to back again, stronger than ever.
So to sum it all up, really, in terms of Ramy's video that he posted, I'm personally going to wait and see what Ramy has to say when he's had some time to process this. Let him go review the video footage and pictures and the comparisons, and hopefully he asks the people around him for honest answers on what he could do if he was to make a comeback at this point in his career. I do think that if Ramy wants to compete again in his heart of hearts, then he will. What'll he look like? Well, we have seen Big Ramy come back in the past, from finishing 6th in 2018 to winning in 2020 and 2021. If he takes that stage again, we'll all be watching. Anyways, guys, leave me a comment down below. What do you guys think? Did Big Ramy just have an emotional reaction? Or do you really think that he's sincere in thinking that he is 100% going to come back and compete in 2023? Let me know down below. Thanks for tuning in to EP09. Be sure to like and subscribe.